This is Nadra, a bright-eyed fresh graduate. She was ready to step into the professional world with high hopes. She had worked tirelessly through her studies, dreaming of the day she'd contribute her skills to a meaningful job. But reality often differs from expectations. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Job applications were sent out endlessly, yet responses were few and far in between. Frustration and worry began to creep in as she questioned if her hard work all had been in vain. When all hope seemed lost, Nadra's phone buzzed. A text message from a company promised unbelievable benefits, 7,000 monthly salary, generous leave, and triple the pay of overtime. Nadra's eyes widened as she read the message in disbelief. Finally, she landed a job interview.
The next day,
Nadra enters a sleek, unfamiliar office building. She's dressed professionally but looks a little nervous. She is greeted by the manager, Yaya. It felt less like a formal process and more like a casual conversation. Before Nadra could process it all, she was offered the job on the spot. Without a second thought, Nadra immediately signed the contract, and both of them shook hands. Now, Nadra has finally landed a job.
2 weeks later,
Weeks into her new role, Nadra dedicated herself fully, putting in endless hours and giving her best. The workload was immense, but she persevered, determined to prove her worth. Her only grievance was seeing Yaya, her manager, constantly leave the office early while Nadra had to endure all the work by herself.
6 hours later,
As hours stretched into the night, Nadra found herself buried in tasks that never seemed to end. The deadlines were tight and the pressure was mounting. While her co-workers had long gone home, she stayed behind to meet the company's demands. Her only company was the sound of the ticking clock and the occasional hum of the air conditioning. Despite the physical and emotional toll, she pushed forward, believing her hard work would one day be recognized.
tomorrow,
Her breaking point came when she woke up feeling weak and feverish. Despite her condition, Nadra hoped the company would be understanding. She mustered all the strength to come to the office and hand out her medical leave to her manager. But Yaya just ripped the paper apart and proceeded to command Nadra to get back to work.
a few moments later,
Adding insult to the injury, her paycheck was far less than what had been promised in her contract. Nadra's excitement for payday quickly turned into anger and disappointment as she noticed the glaring underpayment. Determined to address the issue, she marched into Yaya's office with evidence in hand. However, Yaya dismissed her concerns with vague excuses, refusing to engage in any meaningful discussion. Nadra's protests were met in indifference as the manager coldly brushed off her complaints and shut her out entirely.
the next day,
Determined to seek justice, Nadra turned to Shah, a lawyer specializing in labor disputes. Shah listened intently to her story, taking detailed notes as Nadra poured out her frustrations and described the unfair treatment she endured. With patience and clarity, Shah outlined her legal options, explaining the potential challenges and outcomes she might face. He reassured Nadra that her case was strong, providing her with a renewed sense of hope. With his expert's guidance and encouragement, Nadra found the courage to proceed with the filing of a lawsuit against her company, taking the first steps towards reclaiming her rights.
a few inches later,
The tables began to turn when Nadra, armed with her resolve and Shah's expertise, delivered the lawsuit letter to Yaya. Their once confident manager was visibly shaken.
the following Thursday,
Before the courtroom battle began, Shah stepped forward, presenting the lawsuit file to Judge Sophie. She accepted the documents with a professional nod, carefully reviewing the evidence and claims outlined in Nadra's case. The room grew silent as both sides awaited her acknowledgement, a moment that underscored the gravity of the dispute.
few moments later,
Now, they face off in court. Nadra sat with Shah by her side, her heart pounding as she listened to each argument presented. Across the room, Yaya appeared visibly tense, occasionally whispering and hurriedly to her lawyer. Evidence was displayed, testimonies were delivered, and each point was dissected thoroughly. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Judge Sophie observed the proceedings with a sharp, discerning gaze. Both legal teams presented the cases passionately, but Shah's meticulous preparation shone through, leaving no doubt about the validity of Nadra's claims. After careful consideration, Judge Sophie ruled decisively in Nadra's favor, stating that the evidence provided clearly demonstrated the company's breaches of contract. She ordered the company to not only pay Nadra the damages owed, but also additional penalties for their blatant disregard of labor rights. And with that, justice had been served. In conclusion, several sections of Contract Act 1950 are applicable in Nadra's case, highlighting key breaches by her employer. According to Section 2A, a contract is enforceable by law when an agreement is made. Nadra accepted the job offer, which included promises of a 7,000 salary, triple overtime pay, medical leave, and which establishes a valid contract. The employer's failure to honor these terms constitutes a breach, allowing Nadra to seek legal enforcement. Section 2B emphasizes that agreements are based on mutual promises, where Nadra committed to work in exchange for the benefits promised. The company's failure to deliver these promises legitimizes Nadra's legal claim under contract law. Next, Section 17, addressing fraud, is relevant because the employer intentionally misled Nadra with false promises in the job advertisement to secure her acceptance. This fraudulent misrepresentation encouraged Nadra into the job under false presenters, resulting in financial and emotional harm, which she is entitled for compensation. Lastly, Section 74 allows compensation for losses due to contract breaches or wrongful action. The company's non-compliance and misrepresentations caused financial and emotional damage to Nadra, in which justifies her claims for damages. Case precedents such as Carlyle vs. Carbolic Smokeball & Co. 1893 and Hyde vs. Ranch 1840 illustrates how similar principles of contract enforcement and breach have been upheld in the past.